Guys, it's Jasmine and I'm back today with another video. So today's video is going to be all about RNs pretty much thinking their ish don't stain. So we have all been around RNs that are like, you're an LPN, you're nothing, or you're a CNA, you're not a real nurse, or just mean, nasty RNs. And you're going to encounter them anywhere you go. Rather if you are in an outpatient hospital, anywhere on the floor, even if you are working like in a clinic, you are going to meet nasty nurses. There's just nothing that we can do about that. Even though I wish the overall culture of nursing would change, it's just something that is not. But you can't prevent yourself from becoming one of those nurses. Like, guys, whatever you do, if you become an RN or an LPN, don't be nasty. Like I'm one, I simply don't tolerate it. And you're gonna treat me right whether you are a doctor, a nurse, the CNO, whatever the case may be. Show me respect and I'll show you respect, point blank period. But either way it goes, a lot of people want to know, like, why are RNs so mean? Why are they so nasty, especially to people who are below them? So these are my personal opinions. I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm not saying that this is gospel. I'm just going to give you guys my personal. I believe that the primary reason why RNs are mean is one, because they finally get a position of power. Sometimes, you know, you work so hard to get where you are and you get a little title behind your name and honey, can't nobody tell you nothing. They start thinking like so high and mighty of themselves. They put RNs on this like pedestal, like they are the best. Like we went to school for the longest, even though you can't go to school for like 2 years and get your ADN, which is what I did. Or you go for your BSN, whatever the case may be. But it's just like, I'm an RN, like everybody is beneath me. Like I have to be over LPNs and I have to be over CNAs. And they just get a little bit of like power struck. They feel like I can delegate and tell them whatever I want them to do and they have to do it. So those are just usually people who have like ego issues with themselves, or they feel some type of way now that they got a couple of letters behind their names. You're going to encounter that with nurses and you're going to encounter that with doctors. Some of them are just nasty because they either have MD or they have RN or BSN, whatever, behind their name. And they feel like they are entitled to act that way. I think it's really ridiculous. And I don't know, those people just have issues with themselves. Now there are some nurses who I've heard people talk about this quite a bit, where people who are CNAs like think that they're nurses. Like they're a nurse's aide, but they like legit go in the room, talk to the patients about like their conditions and signs and symptoms, and kind of go beyond the scope of their practice, which can start to create conflicts because patients who are not in the medical field, they don't know. They see people in scrubs and they think everybody is nurses. They think radiology is nurses. They think housekeeping, dietary, anybody who wears scrubs, they think it's a nurse. So if I have a CNA that, you know, I'm asking, hey, can you go in and help such and such to the bathroom? And they start basically giving them information that's not really in the scope of their practice. And then I come in and that person, that CNA, was completely wrong. Now the patient doesn't know who to trust. They don't know who to believe. And it's now the RN and the CNA have to address it, and usually the CNA is going to always feel offended because someone is basically telling them this is not your job. Like if somebody tells me like, Jasmine, it is not your job to do this, I'm like, well dang, I was trying to be helpful. But it's all about presentation and it's all about tone and the way you deliver a message. So if you are an RN and you find yourself in that situation, just make sure, you know, you pull that person aside. Don't do it in front of a lot of people, and just be like, hey, you know, I talked to Mrs. or Mr. such and such, and they told me that you told them ABCD. But that's not really correct. What the proper thing is this. But, you know, that's something for me to kind of explain to them. And I just wanted to address that with you. You know, don't go in there and be like, girl, first of all, you're not a nurse. Don't be in there talking to this patient. Like, that's not what you were supposed to do. You see how the tone and the delivery, it makes a big difference. And like I said, some RNs are just nasty. Some RNs are just mean. Just because they are, especially not to be judgmental, but a lot of the like older ones, they're ready to retire. They're tired of baby nurses who they basically have to babysit throughout the duration of them being on their own. And, you know, they're just tired. So sometimes they don't intend to be mean. They just are, and they don't even know it. It's just kind of what they've become. I can tell you guys, LPNs are nurses. I hate when people try to say LPNs aren't nurses. Like, they are nurses. They sit for NCLEX. They are licensed practical nurses or licensed vocational nurses, depending on where you live. The abbreviations are a little different. But they're nurses. They're allowed to give care just like we are. There's just certain things that they're not able to do because they're not a registered nurse. I have actually met LPNs that are more knowledgeable and more friendly and probably make way more than some of the RNs that I've encountered. So don't go around being like, well, you an LPN, you're not an RN, you're not a nurse. It's not true. I hate that people say that. It's ridiculous. And then it just, like I said, it goes back into the ego thing. Like, well, I'm an RN and you're an LPN, so you're not technically what I am. And there's absolutely no room for that. I feel like we all need to work together, and every person is a chain in what makes patient care and patient safety work. So you need to respect everybody from dietary to housekeeping to supplies. Like, oh my God, central supply, like that's my best friend. Like, supply to the nurses, to the PCTs. Well, because we actually don't have CNAs anymore. Either way it goes, I feel like you need to respect everybody from the CNA or PCT to housekeeping to dietary, central supply, radiology, your doctors, your LPNs, your RNs, your case management. Like, you need to respect everybody. We're all there to do a job. Some people's jobs are different than the other people. People get paid more than the other person. But at the end of the day, we're all adults. And we're all human beings. Everybody has feelings. Stop being nasty. And if you do encounter somebody that is rude and just act like they don't know how to talk to people, pull them to the side. And if it does not get resolved one-on-one, if you guys can't handle it like adults, then simply follow chain of command. I have no problem doing that. I am not going to tolerate any form of disrespect, whether it comes from the housekeeper or it comes from a doctor. I am not going to tolerate it. There's absolutely no room in medical for disrespect and or humiliation. It's just uncalled for. So I hope this covered everything you needed to know about your little nasty nurses on the floor. If you are new to my channel, I hope that you subscribe. Make sure to turn on the notification bell, because like I always tell y'all, YouTube be on one. Sometimes they don't let you guys know when I have a new video posted, but I always try to post it on Snapchat, so follow me there, as well as follow me on IG. And until the next video, I'll talk to all of you huns later. Bye.